The total parts, we might as well get that out of the way immediately. 3,255. That is the number. Hey guys, Mark here, MMR Trains and More. Hey, thanks for stopping in today. This time around, I talked about the Manitowoc scene being something I wanted to work on going forward into winter. And before anything happens there, the first step is to unload the boat, the Manitowoc, at the carferry slip, get the cars off it, and get the boat put away in safekeeping, as well as the apron. And so I thought, well, this gave me an opportunity to take a few pictures and a little video of the model itself as it sits on the layout. So let's look a little bit at the boat, and then I'll just talk a little bit about Manitowoc at the end. And to really talk about the boat, I'm just going to read what Don had written up many years ago for his NMRA contest entry. It explains how he built things a little bit. It's going to drone on. I'm apologizing in advance. I'll try to, flesh it out a little bit and shorten it up mainly. So here we go. So the deck itself is made out of redwood and, a very stable hardwood. Certainly, you don't maybe want to use it for representing steel. So in that regard, he managed to form the wood and laminate several pieces together, making a very solid piece of car deck or boat deck, and then laminate over the top of that with 40,000 styrene. So now you've got the best of both worlds. You got that stability of that hardwood, and you've got the styrene to represent the steel better on top of the deck, of course, and then easy to glue things to, or easier maybe to glue things to with styrene. You're thinking of plastic, liquid plastic cement, that kind of thing. It's listed as having 3,255 individual pieces, and a great number of that would be these stools, obviously, for the 4 tracks. I never did count out how many there are in each track, but it's got to take a good chunk of that. There's a ton of little hatches and vents on this thing, and I'm not going to pretend that I know what they all do. I can tell you that the dark colored ones here, there's a set of 4 there, and on the other side of the stack here, another set of 4. That would be a coal bunker underneath. They would unload coal into this area, and then of course that's for the boiler. This was a steam-fired, coal-fired operation here. Let's see, what else can I glean off of the information that Don left? The stacks, since I'm looking at those, he made jigs for the rungs that go up the side and the ladders. And then of course the stacks themselves are styrene shapes that then he wrapped with 10,000ths styrene. And you can see the guy wires and such that come back down to the support posts here. A little detail, of course you can't catch it inside, the captain, rolled up newspaper on the seat. There's radar equipment and steering equipment, obviously, in the pilot house. There's a railing, obviously, around the ship, as you can see. And those stanchions are etched brass. He used the easy line, kind of the stuff that most of us use on telephone or telegraph wires, for that cable throughout the ship. And it's awfully fine and looks great. Now that was one of the things, I suppose, he has it listed as not being scratch built. The stanchions themselves, and then coming up to the pilot house, you see these ladders here. Well, those were etched brass pieces, and once again he took advantage of an opportunity and great idea he had. Our mutual friend Glenn Guerrera, of course, I spoke about him already in videos. He was having parts made for his freight car kits, and lots of etched brass in there. So Don drew the rough plans. Glenn laid it out with the CAD drawing program that he used, SolidWorks or something along those lines. And, he had these ladders etched and saved a lot of time, and they look great. The railings up on the top end here, same stanchion. However, it's brass wire that goes around. Works quite well. The radar is scratch built. Various pipes, or the searchlight casting, of course, that's a casting you can buy. The life buoy, or the buoy, or the life ring here, the life preserver, if you will, that's a commercial part. The tarps in the boat, however, those were scratch built. And here again, Don, of course, DM decals, that was his side hustle. And high quality stuff. I know he mentioned the bumpers on the back end of the boat here, and that's something that it had like 10 individual parts. The white things here, 10 individual parts on that just by itself. Lifeboats, davits, the flag, another decal that he had made. The ship itself, as I stand here, it's about, I haven't actually measured it for, actual inches. I'm going to say it's about 42, 43 inches long. It comes out to 90% of the size of the actual Manitowoc, and he built it that way to fit on his layout, obviously. And when I was building this area on my layout, I used his plans, and I don't know if he had thought at some point about what would happen to his ships, but he gave me an entire, easy to follow craft paper diagram and design of the car deck, the switches that he used. It really almost messed me up horribly. I'm obviously not going to touch the boat, and this is all hand laid track. It's very close to a number 6 geometry. I mean, very close, but not perfect. And we all know in HO scale, or any scale really, it's got to be a lot closer than just close. I managed to work my apron a bit to line up with his version of the number 6 switch. It created a bit of a odd tracking, but it doesn't derail. And so that's the main thing. It stayed, it basically had to give a slight curve on the end of the commercial turnout to line up with his hand-laid sections here. But that's the way it goes. If it wouldn't have worked, I would be darned if I was going to attempt to remove this. I probably would have had to build a new apron and just go from there, and then hand lay as best as I could. I never did accomplish hand laying track for my MMR award, so I am horrible at that, and I don't really relish the idea of having to ever do it on my layout. Painting, I guess we could talk about that. This is an amazing thing. Maybe not as much on this model, but even so on this one, I guess. The entire thing was painted with a spray can of Krylon and a spray can of oxide red, if you will, from Floquil, when they used to put that in spray cans. And of course white, Krylon white on the pilot house up here. He did the same thing on the Viking, and that has a full superstructure and looks more like a Great Lakes car ferry, obviously, that has the Seagate on the back and everything else, and different decks, and that was all painted with a spray can as well. So it's amazing how he got that accomplished and having it look so darn good. Of course, this is a model of a river boat, if you will. It goes from Windsor, Ontario, CN Railroad, back to the States here in Detroit, and at that time it was a Wabash Railroad, as you see on the emblem. And as such, They didn't have captain's, chambers for sleeping. They didn't have a kitchen. They didn't have any of that. This was operated by a shift of an 8-hour shift, 3 shifts a day as needed. And just like any other job, you work your 8 hours and you'd turn it over to the next crew. Of course, we think of the Great Lakes car ferries, operated year-round, of course. Big icebreaker, bows and staterooms and that meant for carrying passengers and people with their automobiles a little later on. And of course, all the freight cars on the car deck. So entirely different animal, yet the track arrangements were the same on both of these ships. To inherit something like this and then not use it, that would be criminal. And I really don't care if it's perfectly acceptable to my standards here at Manitowoc. If it's a problem for other people, well, that's their problem to deal with. It works fine. The operators like it because you can see what's on the deck, unlike the Viking that goes basically into a great big 4-track tunnel. And if something does derail, it's easily fixed. Everything's out in the open. It's about as close to having a piece of plywood or another piece of redwood down here as you could get without having any superstructure on it. It's that handy. So there's a lot of bonuses to it. There's a lot of I suppose drawbacks as well. But unless you really know what the Great Lakes are all about, you may actually think that this would be suitable for going from Manitowoc to Ludington and on a daily basis with a full load. But we know better, those of us that live along the lake. Of course, you just have to look at all the videos that have been out here on YouTube for the Edmund Fitzgerald. These are very rough waters and a lot of it. You can imagine the distance between Wisconsin and Michigan, the fact that this is probably a vessel that doesn't ride in the water very, it doesn't have much draft in the water, and without a sea gate on and without any sort of protection from the elements. This is something you take across the lake with a tug escort to get it over the Detroit River, and then you bring it back to Manitowoc to be repaired if need be, and that's about it. You're not going to really be hauling stuff across the lake with it. Most of the people that come down here that aren't from the area don't understand that. And then the people that do come down and do realize it, they look at it a little sideways like, well, why is that there? They wouldn't use that. Well, again, you inherit something this beautiful. And seeing as Don was so thoughtful to let my brother and I basically have these two fine models, you use them. It's just that simple. So I did find out more information on the apron. I was kind of wondering about the mechanism to get the counterweights tied down, if you will, and to be able to lift that front of that bridge up a little bit. You can see when something like this would dock, depending on the water level, you'd have to bring up that front of that bridge a tad to sit into the notch on the back of the car ferry. And this one has the same exact setup, so not a problem with that. So that'll be another video down the road somewhere. We'll kind of touch on that. For now, though, I just thought I'd take a quick walkthrough of this model and show you guys what it's all about. And it's coming off the layout now, and I'm going to go under glass for a few months while I work on the rest of the area behind it. So now, if you would be so kind to subscribe to my channel, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you down the rails.